Want to catch the game or relax to your favorite music? Sluggers has you covered with TVs on every wall and a Touchtones jukebox. Watch, relax at Sluggers Bar and Grill.
Welcome to End Zone Online. I'm George Ayub with my buddy Bobby Mills, the 1,000-yard guy. Football season is over. Are you all right?
I'm fine.
You going to be all right?
I think I'm going to be all right.
Okay. Okay. We have a therapist on standby for Bobby Mills here. Don't know what he's going to do. We're going to talk about high school playoffs to wrap that up, and then we'll talk about the season after the break. You saw all 6 games, Bobby. I looked at the picks. You got them all right.
Oh, my goodness.
And I, contrarian that I am, I think I was 2 for 6. What was the best game you saw?
Class A.
Yeah, I watched that one on TV. Terrific game, well played. It came down to the end. There weren't a lot of mistakes. I mean, there was a fumble, but it was a really hard hit. The kid just kind of mistimed his jump on the long pass, but I thought those 2 teams played really well.
They did, and the sportsmanship that was exhibited was also top-notch, but I kind of felt sorry for the missed field goal for the kid there, the split end, but they really cut off Isaac Ockery's running game, and of course he came through the air. But Omaha North was well prepared. They represented the Omaha Public Schools very well in that game. It was a great game.
And I would say that Millard North, the 2 toughest games they had this year, I think, were both Omaha North.
Absolutely.
So they were right there with them. The Norfolk Catholic Boone Central Newman Grove game was a fairly good game. I mean, very competitive. Trying to beat somebody as North was the second time, and I came up short on that.
They did, and North did, or Boone Central had the same thing happen to them that happened to Omaha North. They shut Mazur off on the run, made him go through the air, and of course, I still think Norfolk Catholic was buoyed by Isaac Pfeiffer's injury, and he was on hand, and maybe it wouldn't have made a difference, but boy, Beller sure hasn't prepared. But there were some fantastic athletes on display in that game.
I think when you get down to a championship game, people talk a lot about special teams and mistakes like that. But I also think there's emotion plays a great deal in the game. You don't want to be too hyped up, but when you do have a teammate who's been injured seriously and he's there on the sidelines with you at the game, I think that makes a difference. And so, I agree with you on that. Gross got by Norse 14-7.
Oh.
Very, obviously a low-scoring game. A couple of good defenses there, and they shut down the Norse running back.
They did. They really stopped Kruger, and of course Reeds is not a great passer, but I'm surprised that Norris's defense was that formidable. They really put up a great fight, and of course came right down to the wire. But there was not going to be any 37-31 game there.
No.
Great battle, though.
Yeah, it was a good battle. The most defensive of all the 6 championship games. Aquinas defends their title against Sutton, and Elgin Pope John, Elgin Public, as you said, they're tough to stop.
Exeter Milligan stayed with them in the first half, but Ron Mimick had a little talk with them at halftime, and they came out and really clamped down on defense. And you just can't. They're just so that wing tee is tight, and they run it so quick. It's just hard to defense, and of course their defense is top notch.
Right. And anytime we've talked about this before, when you get into 8-man football, you have to be able to tackle in space and do things in space much more so than you do in 11-man football, and certainly they do that well.
They do.
Well coached. I mean, it's a great scheme, but they've had the athletes to do it too.
They do, and they don't even have a 1,000-yard. Well, they did have a 1,000-yard rush of the quarterback, but most of their runs were right up the middle, and it was just a physical game. But it's just so tough to beat them on defense.
Right.
Oh man.
Right. And then finally, our friends down the road, Giltner, state champions. We could see that coming a long ways away.
Man.
I think I saw that in August. The kind of team that Coach Ashby's put together down there, the kind of program he's put together down there.
I can't believe it. I'm convinced that he still didn't show all these cards. Denton and I were talking about all these little short passes that he threw. He tried that once during that game. They were all regular passes. Oh, man. So that just displays what kind of an athlete he is, and of course the defense was phenomenal.
Right.
What a team.
Great job. So your state champions this year, Millard North in A, Omaha Gross in B. Class C state champions Norfolk Catholic. Class C, that's C1. C2 is David City Aquinas. D1 Elgin Pope, John Elgin Public, and D2 state champions Giltner. We will be back right after the break to talk about some 1,000 and 2,000-yard rushers and some thoughts wrapping up this football season.
Hungry at lunch, after work, or the big game? Sluggers features charburgers, brats, and chicken from the grill, corn nuggets, poppers, fries, and onion rings from the fryer. And don't forget about the daily specials. Eat and enjoy at Sluggers Bar and Grill.
All right, we're back with End Zone Online. Denton's told us not to pound on the table, and so would you stop it?
I'm a drummer. I'm sorry,
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen.
We're working with a drummer. So you have your 1,000-yard club. Obviously, you gained some new members. You gained some. There's some 2,000-yard runners.
Right.
Did you tell me 5?
There's 5 this season, right? Ockery is by 1 yard is the state rushing champion over James Kruger of Norris, and then we have
Ockery, of course, and Miller.
yeah, Miller North. I'm sorry, and then we have Tyler Cavan from Wahoo, Luke Glenn from down the road at Shelton, and down the road a little ways south, Jordan Slough, who was right up there within 20 yards of the leaders. So I think I'll have close to 100 this year.
100,000-yard
Yes, yes. 109's the record, but I haven't had 100 for quite a while. So that's, you know what that tells me is there were a lot of good linemen out there.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have 2,000 yards without good linemen.
Right.
And we've got a guy nodding back there that was an excellent lineman.
Offensive lineman behind.
That's right.
That's why when he says quit pounding the table, we do it.
Yes,
A couple
exactly.
of running backs, we know who butters our bread.
Yes.
So we had some great stories this season. I thought. What do you see as one or two of the biggest stories you saw in high school football?
Well, it's kind of a local flavor for me because I think Zach Rose from Northwest did a phenomenal job because he didn't even, like last year he didn't start, so he comes in this year and breaks a state record twice in Class B for a single season yard. That's a big one for me, and of course Northwest is a big story, but Giltner's going to be the tops on the list because of they lost some good players from a year ago, but they're pretty smart down there. I think Ashby's one of the biggest brains in 8-man football that I know.
All right, I would agree with you. I thought Northwest was the
boy.
biggest story. The turnaround season, but also Zach's phenomenal. And he had great receivers in Larson and Waters to go to on the outside. And again a great line. Connor Eberhardt, anchored down the defense. He was chosen the Defensive Player of the Year, area Defensive Player of the Year.
Well deserved.
And so, I just think it did wonders for the program to turn it around like that. And they were formidable. I mean, they put a beat down on Aurora.
Oh, boy.
And then played them tough at the end of the year. Again, tough to beat a team twice. So I think Kevin Stein has that turned around. Of course, Giltner's a great story as well. And I'll just throw this out there. Central Catholic ended up ranked in the top 10.
They did.
In Stu Popsville's top 10 from the Omaha World Herald. So I think, Shoemaker did a nice job this year.
He did. Got his 1,000 yards, both rushing and passing.
And so I think those are some great stories. The Islanders, had probably what they might think is, the record of 4-5. But they were right on the cusp of getting into the playoffs.
Oh boy!
But they went down. They finished their season with a great effort at Lincoln High, and so, Coach Tomlin used that to bring things around. And our friends down at Heartland Lutheran, we kept wanting them to get one, and they couldn't get a win. So they're going to look to improve on that campaign by getting in the win column again next year. So
They should. But what about senior high losing 21 out of 22 starters, and they still did very well despite that?
Yeah, and we're just a hair's breadth away from making the playoffs.
Right.
So terrific coaching job there by Coach Tomlin and his staff. So any other thoughts on the season?
I just want to give a shout out to 2 programs, and it's kind of a local flavor of Central Nebraska. One is Norris with Jim Jacobson, former Aurora coach, and York.
Oh,
Didn't they do a fantastic job? Went out
job.
and knocked off Scotts Bluff and probably should have beaten Elkhorn, and they were just that close to the finals. So great job by Glenn Snodgrass.
Yeah, and the Dukes proved that you want to play well at the end of the season.
Oh man!
And it's good to play well the entire season as a Millard North did, but it's good to play well at the end of the season. They really. I think the Northwest game really turned it around for them when they came into Northwest after the Vikings had taken it to Aurora. upset them, then their season, they're on the way. They're on
That
the
might
way.
have did it. That game might have really turned it around for him. So I'm really proud of those two schools plus the ones I
Great.
mentioned.
Well, Bobby, it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. This has been End Zone Online for today and the entire season. We'll be back next fall, I guess, talking about high school football. We'll make sure Bobby gets to his therapy sessions as he goes through withdrawal. And join us. We'll be talking hoops here in a couple weeks, high school hoops, and we'll be broadcasting high school basketball games as well. For Bobby Mills, Denton Cushing behind the camera, I'm George Ayub for End Zone Online. Thanks for joining us.
Got game? Sluggers features pool, Megatouch Aurora, Silver Strike Bowlers Club, Keno, and an in-house darts league. Play and more at Sluggers Bar and Grill.